Hey guys, welcome to TruckBedPower.com. So today we're going to be talking about the Jeep Gladiator and adding 12-volt truck bed power to your Jeep. This is something you might want to do if you're looking for a minimalist 12-volt bed power option for camping, overlanding, or just need easy access to 12-volt power. So the first step in the process is to determine what things you are going to run. As an example, if you wanted the ability to charge an Anker power station, you could look up the maximum DC input wattage, which is about 120 watts for this Anker 535 power station. You'll want to look up each item you want to run, such as a 12-volt fridge or some sort of other power station, and add up all of the wattages. After you have determined your max load or total wattage load, you'll want to use this wattage information to calculate your wire gauge, appropriate fuse type, which should be the next fuse up from what your expected load will be, and what types of 12-volt ports you'll want. So looking at wire gauge first. Once we've determined our wattage, we'll actually need to back out our amps. So if we look at watts equals volts times amps, we can determine what our amps will be by taking watts divided by volts. So in an example, if we had 200 watts divided by 12 to 13 volts, we should come up with around 15 or 16 amps. And that'll tell us, that we'll fall in here. In this example, again for the Jeep Gladiator, we'll be running about a probably 15 to 20 foot cable. So you'll want to use anywhere from a 10 to 8 gauge wire. And of course, in your example, may be a little different. And also good to check a few sources just to make sure that you have the appropriate gauge. And then on the fuse, so if you've calculated that you need about a 15 amp load, go up to that 20 amp. So next you'll want to determine the types of 12-volt ports you'll need. I went with this 4-port option here. This allowed me to monitor my battery voltage, allowed me to turn this panel on and off, also allowed me to power or charge my power station or run my fridge directly, and then also allowed me to charge USB devices. You also may opt for a single 12-volt plug, and that's a great place to start. Um, and you'll also want to make sure you get wire connectors and tape and fuses and heat shrink and any other things you may need to complete this project. All right, once we've determined the number of ports that we're going to use and what type of ports and our different connectors, next we'll need to determine our 12-volt socket options. So we actually created this part ourselves. This is a kind of a four-port socket option. And the reason we created this is because if you want to use this part here kind of in a standard form, it doesn't line up with the factory bed holes. So if you want to use that, you actually need to cut out your truck bed, and there's some YouTube videos about doing that. But I didn't want to do that. And especially if you lease your vehicle, you don't want to modify it like that. So this option actually allows you to use the factory bed holes and fit all four 12-volt ports in there. We also created a single 12-volt hole here if you want to use and have kind of more of a flush mount, and also just some flat pieces to either replace your current cover panel, or we also have a little hole here in the center if you want to drill out, kind of a more customized solution. But the key thing there is, going with this part, which you can print on your own, or send us a message, and we can work with you to print you out a part. All right. So now that you have a plan, it's time to install. You'll need about 15 to 20 foot of wire. Make sure that you're using the appropriate gauged wire, and just be aware of the copper coated aluminum stuff that's out there. It's not as high of quality. So on the one end of the wire, you'll want to wire up your fuse and fuse holder, and that'll go to the positive side of the battery. And go ahead and wait to connect everything up. The negative can go to ground on the side of the engine bay, kind of shown here. And the Jeep has extra room on the positive battery terminal, so no need to disconnect anything. You'll just kind of use a spare spot there. From here, you route the cable down on the passenger side next to the battery. You'll want to take some caution here to make sure that you're not too close to the exhaust. And you'll want to route that on top of the frame rail. You don't want that hanging down to get caught on anything. And as this is a Jeep, you don't want anything to get scraped, up against the frame. So you want to be on top of that frame rail. From here, you'll kind of run that all the way down the truck bed and up to the kind of factory spot where that OEM cover plate is, and then route your cables up through the bed. Here's where you'll connect your 12-volt panel and mount it into the factory bed holes. So once you have it all mounted, you can connect up the cables on the battery side, and you'll have something nice and pretty like this, where you can run, USB devices. You can charge power stations. You can run, a 12-volt fridge. You can do your battery monitoring. So all very nice. So as mentioned before, this is kind of a custom part that we created and 3D printed for the Jeep Gladiator to accommodate 4 12-volt sockets and use the factory bed holes. So it requires no drilling, no cutting, and free to download and use as you need. So if you have any questions or see any improvements, definitely let us know. And thanks for watching.